Hey, what's up everybody? It's Marcus. In this week's video I have something really cool. It's the 50 RF 1.2 versus the Nikon S-Line 51.2. So we're going to hop into Lightroom, compare some files. I'm going to give you the good, bad, and the ugly about the focusing on the Nikon versus the Canon, and we're going to have some fun here. I'm going to give you some raw files to download too, so you can pixel peep on your own. So stick around, this will be fun. And please go to ProPhotoEdits.com where you can download my Lightroom presets and Photoshop actions. Every image that you've seen me upload here on YouTube and on my website, on my Instagram, has been edited with these presets and my Lightroom actions. I want to let you guys know that my course is up right now. It's my creative lighting course and photo editing course. So this is like a bundle. You're going to learn how I do all my creative lighting in studio. Every piece of gear that I use, I break it down to why I choose the colors that I choose. Every single thing. No stone is left unturned. And then we're going to hop into Lightroom. You get my Lightroom presets for each file. There's 6 in there right now. There's going to be 12 by the end of the year. Then we'll hop into Photoshop and I give you screen recordings of me editing each one of these shots, so I can show you how to really up your game on both sides, shooting and editing. And I also just uploaded 2 new courses. This is the light bending technique that you've seen on my Instagram. Go check my Instagram out, I'll link it. And this is all done in camera with minimal gear, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. And I also just finished uploading the complete and partial silhouettes that you're looking at right now. This is totally different than how you expect it to be done, and it's not very expensive to do it also. I also just finished uploading this user request video, how I stretch to get around the Instagram crop and how I export things to give them extra pop for social media. So that's in there now too. Okay, so first thing first, let's get the size thing out of the way. The Z lens, the S lens, I should say, the 51.2 for Nikon is just enormous. It's incredibly big. And I'm no stranger to big lenses. I use them all the time. I have some of the biggest lenses you can have. I carried a 200 f2 for years, but for 50s, I've never seen anything like this. It's pretty crazy. I don't think it needed to be that big. I'm not a fan of putting the goofy LCD on top of the thing. That's just one more thing that can break that no one ever looks at anyway. So Nikon and Canon both have these rings on the new lenses, and the ring on the front by the red line there on the Canon is something you can adjust, turn it, and adjust the ISO, aperture, whatever you want it to control inside the camera, you can set it up. And Nikon has the exact same thing, but their ring placement is towards the back of the lens. And for me, that made it a little bit difficult because when I'm using the function buttons on the front of the camera, I bumped it several times, so I ended up just turning it off. Okay, so I'm not going to waste a bunch of time with the autofocusing here because a lot of times that's the body's fault, not the lens's fault. The Nikon 50 was a little bit slower, I could tell, just you know, feel wise, but it's the body. You know, the Z7, Z7ii, they cannot compare with the R5. I'm not even going to run the R5 through the lens footage because I didn't record it. You can look at a bunch of my other videos and see how fast it is. I don't miss any shots. If I was going in and out like I was there on my son, it would never lose. It would never lose focus. It would be none of that pulsing. It wouldn't do what it's doing right now. And I've tried this in all different modes. And I've shot Nikon for years, and I'm not bashing Nikon. It's just you need a Z9 to compare to an R5. That's just basically it. But that's not what we're here for today. We're here for the lens comparison and what the files look like. Okay, so let's compare a couple of these. So over here we have, this is going to be the Z7 on this side right over here. I'll go ahead and turn on my U pointer so you can see. This is the Z7, this is the R5 with the respective lenses, 51.2 RF, 51.2 S. And first of all, let's look at this bokeh back here. I can't tell a huge amount of difference. I might have been a step closer on the Z7, so that could play into it. And we'll get into a few more shots, of course, to check it out in different scenarios. But I think that the bokeh may be a bit smoother. I'm just splitting hairs here on the Z line, S line on the Nikon. It's really hard to tell. They're so similar. I think they would probably match if I got in a step closer over here. Let's look at the sharpness and see what we have. Now, this is going to be a mixed bag probably, because there's no comparison in the focusing on the R5 versus the Z7, Z7ii. They're just not close. I'd have to have an R9, and then we would be in a whole different price bracket. The Z7 1 cannot compete with the R5 autofocus wise. So I can't really tell if the S-Line 51.2 is slower. It's definitely slower focusing wise, but I can't tell if that makes a ton of difference yet, because I'd have to test it on something like an R9, because that's the only thing that really can compete with the R5 focusing speed. I never miss a shot with the R5. I just don't. I miss a lot of shots with the Z7 in this lens, and it kind of frustrated me, but that's not what we're here for this week. We'll get to that next week. You can see that the colors, now this is a different system, so take that with a grain of salt, but I matched them. They're pretty much identical to me, color wise. Now if we go into the bokeh over here, just look at these back flowers. You can tell it's a bit softer over here on the Nikon side on that 50, but I think if I would have taken a step closer over here on the R5 footage, R5 pictures, it probably would be a lot closer. Just overall rendering, I think, is a bit better in this picture here on the Nikon side. But splitting hairs, of course. Let's keep this and see if I can get a little bit closer over here. Overall 1.2, 1.2. It's really not that big of a difference. Let's go over here and see if I get closer over here. Yeah, I would say, just judging by what I'm seeing, and download these files and check them out, it's splitting hairs, guys. Look, it's not going to make or break which lens is better. It's really not going to make or break which lens is better. Over here on the Nikon side, I'm gonna move in a little bit closer, and now let's compare sharpness and stuff like that nature again. See if we hit this on the Z7. And this is another thing. We might have to choose another file over here on the Nikon side, because yet again, this is a better comparison. Okay, the sharpest at 1.2 with this S on the Z7. There's a lot of numbers here, guys. Numbers, letters, all this craziness. This is a Nikon. It's so identical. They're very, very, very sharp at 1.2. Very well corrected, but not overly corrected till they look like junk. Overall, it's just splitting hairs. It really is splitting hairs. They both have excellent color. They both have excellent fall off. I do think the Nikon has a bit better bokeh, just being honest, and I'm primarily a Canon shooter at this point, just because the system is so snappy. I get what I want out of it. I do miss a lot of the Nikon dynamic range at times, but with the R5, it's not nearly what it used to be. Alright guys, so before we head out of here, let's look at two more things. Minimum focusing distance, which we'll get into a second, and just studio use files to see how good it is compared to the RF in the studio really quickly, just in the style I like to do. And you can learn how to do all this stuff in camera. This is just a raw file in my class, of course, and I wanted to see if it could do what my lens could do on my R5, because there's different element sizes, and the element size on the Z lens is a little bit bigger, and that makes a difference sometimes. But check this out. Let's go in here and let's compare these two. And I've tried to match them, you know, within reason. It's not apples to apples here. The file colors are going to be a little bit different. Now you're looking at the R5 with the 51.2 RF on the right, and this is the Z7 with the 1.2 50 on the left. Okay, so it's not you're noticing mostly the colors that come out of the camera are different, you know, and those can be corrected or just up to your liking, you know, one way or the other. Let's let both of these load. I did miss a lot more shots with the Z7, and that's just because it is what it is, y'all. You're gonna miss more shots with that camera, but when you hit, it works. I can't fire as quickly either, but this is more about the lenses, as we've discussed, and I don't know, I can't see that big. I cannot see that big of a difference at all. I mean, I wouldn't choose which lens you want based on which one you think is the better lens. I would choose it based on the system and accuracy. You can tell that this is not quite in focus. I can't tell where the focal plane could be, but I think the colors might be a little bit better out of the Nikon side here, but I could tweak this to be almost identical. Okay, let's do another one real quick. So pretty much apples to apples here with these two files. I cannot tell, now that this is loaded over here, I cannot tell a difference. I just can't. I mean, I can, but it's nothing that would make me say this one's better than that. I'll let you download these and play with them and see what you think, but I really can't tell. I can tell that this misses focus a little bit sometimes, you know. It's not quite as accurate on the IAF, but other than that, I can't tell. I would pick the lens based on your system, you know. If you're getting into a system, I would go Canon, unless you can afford the Z9. Because accuracy, the lens is smaller, you're gonna hit all your shots, and I have a much better experience there. The files, the dynamic range, of course, a little bit better on the Z7, I think, just a touch. We're splitting hairs here now. You have a bit of a magenta shift on the Z7, of course, which is easily correctable, and some people prefer that look, but it's a nice look. It's a nice look on the Nikon 51.2. I cannot lie to you. Minimum focusing is pretty much the same. I think I might have been able to get a little bit closer on, and this is just a garbage shot, but I just wanted to test it out real quick on the Z system on the 50 Nikon. This is the 50 Nikon getting a little bit closer, and this is the Canon on this side now. I think I could get a little, I don't know why you'd ever want to get this close with the 50, but I think you can get a touch closer with the Z. But again, it's not all the way in focus, you know. So I don't know that that's necessarily a lens thing. It's a slower lens, but again, there's no other camera out there that I would say can compete with the R5 on the Nikon side with any type of accuracy, besides the R9. The R9 is pretty incredible. Until next week, y'all, when we check out the dynamic range, outdoor, natural light, and we're gonna push the Nikon Z tops, highest megapixel cameras versus the R5, and check it out, and I have files for you then too. All right, love you guys. Until next week, it's Marcus.